Canada's racist and bigoted persecution of Christians and Christian pastors, and we will not be silent on it. Let's go bold. I'm Scott Patton. Thank you all for joining us today for the Go Bold podcast. Please consider hitting that like, subscribe, and the share button on our YouTube channel. Also, we'd appreciate it if you would like and follow our Facebook page at the Go Bold Network. And finally, check out our website at the GoBoldNetwork.net. That's the GoBoldNetwork.net. You know, folks, the greatest strategic danger to the lost is silent and timid Christians. We got to call out the persecution and the deception of the gospel and of Christians in all forms, and we will be bold, and we will stand up for King Jesus against the cancel and the Marxist culture. Now, for our top stories. Canada's racist and bigoted, yes, I'm saying that, persecution of Christians. And you know, folks, I didn't say China. I didn't say North Korea. I didn't say Russia. I said Canada, yes, our neighbors to the north. You know, we've seen for the last several years Canada's creep into Marxism and communism, but what I will tell you, folks, is since the COVID-19 crisis, it's no longer a creep. In fact, it's a dead sprint. And with that, we've seen some horrible examples of Christian pastors and churches being, yes, I'm saying the word, persecuted. Now, Canada has turned into one, I would say, one big Marxist Antifa farm. That's how I'd describe them. As always, on the Go Bold podcast, we're going to start in Scripture, and I want you to look at this beautiful verse in the Gospel of Luke that you see there on the screen. And it says simply this: blessed are you when people hate you, when they exclude you and insult you and reject your name as evil because of the Son of Man. I want you to let that verse sink in as we're looking at this persecution of Christians in Canada right now. I want you to look at that beautiful picture of King Jesus. And so that's when I picture Jesus a lot of times, I don't see a king. I see this beautiful man that's dirty and tired, and he is out there saving souls, that beautiful shepherd. And when I see the Canadian government and its hate, you saw it in the verse: exclude, insult, reject, all of those because of him, who you see there on the screen, Jesus. Now, here's what happens, guys. The Marxists get unhinged with the gospel. And why do they get unhinged with the gospel? Because we're proclaiming that Jesus is God. That's when it starts. And when you start proclaiming the gospel, the good news that Jesus is God, you're going to make a lot of people upset. Because I want you to know, when I make it, I don't apologize about it. I don't worship a dead Jew in a Palestinian tomb. No, I worship a living and breathing God, and his name is Jesus Christ. I want you to look at that picture of Pastor John MacArthur. Now, you're going to see the Canadian government is what many Marxists in the U.S. would really like to see happen to John MacArthur and a lot of other pastors. You see, the church, John MacArthur's church in California, received numerous fines, harassment from political leaders, harassment from the California governor, and you saw this. You saw this on multiple occasions, and now the Supreme Court has actually ruled in favor of the church. But you also saw this last year a Christian pastor, preaching the gospel in the Chaz Zone in Seattle, and he got beat to a living pulp. We're seeing this in such states as California, as Washington. We're seeing this in Virginia and Oregon. But nothing to the degree that we have seen in Canada. And like I have discussed before with critical race theory and intersectionality, it's not the Marxists that are behind this. I'm going to tell you who's behind it, folks. Just like the persecution, and that is Satan. Now, what's repulsive to me, and I'll just tell you guys, is the absolute dead silence from pastors. I get it. I get it that some politicians are silent. Now, I will tell you, Senator Josh Hawley has not been silent on it. Neither is Tom Cotton. There's several U.S. senators and politicians that are starting to speak out about this. But the persecution, in my view, with Canada is more of a how do I put it? Want to put it? A torment which people and societies inflict upon other people for being different. And that's how it is with the Christian faith many times. And that difference is a difference in the worldview. And you're going to see this plain and simple here. The persecution seeks to intimidate. It seeks to silence. It seeks to punish, or even in the extreme cases like you see in North Korea and China, you're seeing people killed because of their faith. Now, we haven't seen that torture of Canadian Christians or killing of Christians in Canada like we do in China and North Korea. But I want to remind everybody of Satan's big three strategies, and I want to put this in context. As you see that picture of that picture of Satan's, his big three strategies. Now, I want you guys to remember this, folks. Satan is always going to try to do three things. He's going to plant worldly false gospels. Yep, he's going to do that. He's not going to talk you out of your faith, but he's going to mock you out of your faith. And then what Satan's going to do, if none of those work, he's going to outlaw your faith. He's going to make Christianity a crime. He's going to try to find ways to suppress the gospel, to hinder the gospel. And that's exactly what you're seeing in Canada. And Canada has done this on multiple occasions to multiple pastors. Now, I just wanted you to look at this picture of the gentleman that you see on the screen. The man pictured is being arrested. The black man that you see on the picture, he's being arrested. Now, you would think that he was probably being arrested for like throwing a Molotov cocktail, or maybe burning down a business, maybe looting something, maybe killing something, maybe firebombing a police station, maybe firebombing a police car, maybe blindside punching somebody. But here's the reality with this man. This man is Pastor David Lynn. He is a pastor in Christ Forgiveness Ministry. He had the awful hate crime you see there in the picture. He had the awful hate crime of preaching Matthew's gospel. Yes, I said that. Can you imagine that? Now, according to cauldronpool.com, Pastor David Lynn of Christ Forgiveness Ministry was he was doing a outdoor preaching tour on the 4th of June, and throughout 22 districts in Toronto. The video that I'm fixing to show you here has Pastor Lynn sharing the gospel with people on the street corner when a group of belligerent LGBTQ protesters began, all being white, of course, began their racist rants against this man. They formed a blockade around the pastor, shouted down his message, and here's what the pastor replied to him. He said, "We are here to tell you that we hate nobody. Jesus died for all sinners." Then he added, "Every heterosexual has sinned." That's true, including me. Multiple times. All of us have. And then he said, "Every homosexual has sinned." And he said, quite frankly, sin is when we violate God's law. Now, did you know that that was hate speech, and that is a hate crime in Canada to say that from this black pastor? It's not like he was threatening to murder somebody, or he wasn't judging somebody based on the color of their skin, like most hate crimes are. As a pastor, Lynn attempted to even move away from the hostile crowd. They continued to shove, intimidate, and block him from leaving. Police eventually arrived, and rather than dealing with those LGBTQ people that physically assaulted him and intimidated him, they accused Pastor Lynn of disturbing the peace. And they told him, you could only preach without a microphone. No application. You have to just preach here on the street corner without a microphone. Lynn then complied. But as the crowd became more hostile, the police moved in, and they arrested the pastor for what? Disturbing the peace. I want you to watch a clip of this video right quick and tell me what you think.
Everybody can have dignity and respect, everybody. But it's not all the time that this is carried out. Sometimes hatred is carried out by people of various members of the community. We're here to tell you that we hate nobody. So I'm coming out of the closet and saying I'm a Christian. And I want to know whether you would tolerate me as a Christian.
Okay, so let me give you some commentary on what you just watched. Now, let me just pause. We just pause the video for a second. Now, you see where he says, I'm coming out as Christian. Like I've said on this podcast many times, and I've said this from the pulpit, folks, we are not the Christian intelligence agency. It's not like we got to keep this secret that we're Christians, We are not the CIA, the Christian intelligence. We don't have to be silent. Remember, you always hear the thing from the Marxist culture. You need to keep your Christianity to yourself. You cannot share the gospel with anybody. You have to keep this a secret. You can't tell anybody that you love Jesus. You can't proclaim the gospel. You cannot evangelize anybody. Well, I'm going to tell you something, folks. As the good pastor said, it's time to come out of the closet. Heck, everybody else has. Can I get an amen in the comment section? I mean, really. But I want you to continue with the video. I want you to watch this.
It's an option. Yeah, I chose this location. It's a part of Toronto. Does this have a special law in Church and Wellesley?
No.
No.
But you've chosen this location.
I don't want to continue the conversation anymore. Officer, I'm going to preach over here and exercise my freedom. Jesus Christ is calling all people to himself. Because he loves you. Love conquers hate. Love conquers hate. There is hope for you. There is hope for me. There is hope for the sinner. Our street.
Back, please, get back.
I'm not under. I didn't do anything against the law. I didn't do anything against the law. I didn't do anything against the law. You're ripping my shirt. Take my speech. No.
This is absolutely wrong.
Okay, well, I'm being arrested. For what?
Absolutely.
What did I do?
You are not upholding the law.
What did I do? We're going to give you all your information. What did I do? What did I do? Well, what did I do? I need to know what I did according to the law. This is against the law.
Now, again, you see the mocking, the things that happen to this man. Remember what Satan does. Satan mocks you out of your faith. And then if that doesn't work, he's going to outlaw your faith. He's going to make Christianity a crime. And that's exactly what he has done in Canada on multiple occasions. Now, I want to compare and contrast the video that you just saw with the treatment the treatment of the black pastor to the BLM and Antifa rally and protest in Montreal. Now, I want you to remember, this was at the height of the COVID crisis, where we didn't have a shot, we didn't have any of that. You had all the social distancing, masks were mandatory, and I want you to watch this clip.
Looting stores and businesses in the downtown core. In fact, it got so bad that the Metro Montreal subway system was shut down for about an hour because of the violence around 9 p.m. last night. Very disappointing end to what began as a peaceful protest. Take a look at what it did begin as. Marchers moving their way along downtown streets.
Now, these are scenes not of an American city, but of Montreal, where police clashed with protesters at a solidarity march on Sunday. Police used tear gas and pepper spray on demonstrators who did not disperse.
This was a major outdoor protest during the height of the COVID crisis. But now in Canada, there's baseball games. There's even indoor hockey games. There's major supermarkets that are open. The pot shops are open. The bars are open. Liquor stores are open. But man, I tell you what, you better not have church, because you might catch COVID in church. I want you to look at this next picture here. This is Pastor Artur Pulaski of the Cave of Alderman Church. Now, Pastor Pulaski and his brother David, they were arrested and charged with organizing. This is back in May. So this is now that things are starting to open up. This was back just a month ago in May. Organizing an illegal in-person gathering. 15 cop cars, a 6-man SWAT team, 28 officers pulled this pastor over and arrested him, threw him on the ground, and arrested him for an illegal gathering. for a legal gathering. But everything else is open. That's okay. But, man, I tell you what, if you Christians try to do this, nuh-uh. Look at this next picture. I'm going to give you some more examples. And I just want you to know, this is Pastor Tim Stevens of the Fairview Baptist Church in Calgary. He was placed into a police car, driven away as his wife and young children watched. He was arrested again. This is a horrible, emotional scene. It was captured by Rebel News Video, and let me just say I've got a lot of my content from the Rebel News Video, and I really appreciate them exposing all this heresy and these horrible things that's happening in Canada right now. But it shows the children crying as Stevens calmly walks to his vehicle. But it also shows the stupidity and the hypocrisy that you're seeing in the Canadian government right now. Now, Tim has been arrested several times, like I said, but Tim had the absolute horrible crime 2 weeks ago of holding a secret outdoor church service. Yes, a secret outdoor church service. He was tracked down and police helicopters. Now, I'm not talking about a potential Al-Qaeda terrorist. I'm not talking about a Hamas terrorist. I'm talking about a Christian pastor that had an outdoor church service in the woods. Okay? Think about this. This was 2 weeks ago in Canada, having a local church meeting outdoor. Why? Because their church was shut down. Their church was barricaded. You can't have church anymore. But we could have amusement parks open. You could have baseball games in Canada. I want you to watch this horrible video of this Christian pastor getting arrested for having church. He's getting arrested in his home. Then I want you to see his children there. You're seeing the horrible things. Let's watch it.
On June the 6th.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what you're under arrest for.
Daddy. Bye, guys. Okay.
Now, again, Pastor Tim had the horrible, horrible, horrible crime of preaching the gospel. Now, guys, again, I go back to Luke. I go back to the verse, this beautiful verse in Luke chapter 6, verses 22. Blessed are you people who hate you when they exclude you, when they insult you, and when they reject your name as evil because of the Son of Man. I want to give again the credit to Rebel News for really staying on top of this story. The Alberta Health Services, that's where I got this from. The Alberta Health Services, the province health department, they closed the church building early this month because they did not have the authorization to meet. But Stevens now, Pastor Tim Stevens, kept holding church services at other undisclosed locations outdoors. Not indoors, but outdoors. Videos of the services were posted online. So then police started using a massive search. Check this out. A massive search with helicopters. They discovered the location. Oh, you can't have church outdoors. Somebody might catch COVID. Now, guys, let me just say, this is just straight up persecution and harassment. And we can't be silent about this. That's exactly what this is. And anybody says otherwise, they're not having the courage to speak out against it. A police helicopter. Think about that. Now, according to Rebel News, again, this is what Rebel News now is quoting Pastor Tim Stevens' wife. This is what she's saying. We are shaken, but our faith is not, she wrote. We are sorrowful, but always rejoicing in God's providence. Tim's imprisonment will only strengthen us in our faith and embolden us to love and obey Christ no matter what the cost. She's asking believers for prayers and that her husband would stand firm and be comforted. She requested prayers for his release. Now, I just want you to know, you see this next picture of the Gospel Coalition. You would think the Gospel Coalition might have issue with a pastor that's preaching the gospel, but of course the Gospel Coalition is going to take up for the Canadian Communist government. It's very, very disappointing. The other thing that's very disappointing to me is we haven't heard a peep from the Southern Baptist Ethics, Religious, and Liberty Commission, the ERLC. Now, if they've said something about it, I've missed it, guys. Or, I don't think we saw it this year, and I could be wrong. Somebody please correct me. We don't have a resolution condemning this in the Southern Baptist Convention. Now, if there is, please correct me. I haven't seen it. But we did hear from the Gospel Coalition. Seems like they always like to, this whole idea of Christian nationalism. In fact, we saw them preach about this last year, but I'm just saying. The Baptist elite's favorite magazine, the Gospel Coalition of Canada, would write this. In favor of government actions. Going out of their way to proclaim these were only for health reasons. I'm going to quote Paul Carter from the Gospel Coalition in Canada. He writes this, I'm quoting him here, with few exceptions. The majority of the protocols we've had to deal with here in North America appear to have been enacted in the best interest of public health. Has there been incompetence? Surely. Has there been missteps? Certainly. Has there been overreach? Probably. But there has been hostility and ill treatment because of our religious beliefs? No. Really? No, this gets to the Gospel Coalition. Has there been hostility and ill treatment because of our religious beliefs? No. Really? Really? I think this Carter guy is doing his best Canadian impression of Russell Moore. You recall Russell Moore when he's no longer part of the SBC, but you recall him saying after the Supreme Court ruled that the state of California could allow no singing in churches. Russell Moore called that a good sound decision. Just reminded you of that. Why is it so important that we call out this hypocrisy? I'm going to tell you what it is. I want you to look at this next verse. Matthew 18:20. For where 2 or 3 gather in my name, I am there with them. Yes, indeed. That's what it is. I want you to look at it again. Let's go back to Luke 6:22. Blessed are those who are you when people hate you, when they exclude you, when they insult you, when they reject your name as evil because of the Son of Man. God tells us in his word not to give up meeting together. He tells us that specifically. This is what these folks are doing in Canada. They're meeting as God has commanded them. The Bible even goes so far as to call the church, as you know, the bride of Christ. If you love Jesus, you will love the things that he loves. And there is no man on earth that if he loves his bride, he's going to do the things that God has asked us to do. The church is that important. The gathering is that important. He called us. He didn't do that to burden us. He did that to bless us. He did that to bless our children. Church attendance can be one of the greatest blessings in your entire life for your family. And folks, I'm going to tell you right now, do not be afraid to call this out. Do not be afraid to call this stupid. We worship Jesus Christ, who is God. When the world starts treating us as they treated Jesus, I'm going to tell you right now, that's one of the greatest compliments you'll ever get. That's one of the greatest compliments you'll get. That is a testimony. When we start living and to live like Jesus did, when we start finding our inner Shadrach, or inner Meshach, or inner Abednego, who were not thrown into the furnace for what they did, but they were thrown into the furnace for what they said. We will not bow down to your God. John the Baptist was not beheaded for anything he had done. He was beheaded for what he said. Every great disciple of Jesus has been killed for what they said, not what they did. I think Jesus said it best when he said this to Saul of Tarsus. Why do you persecute me, Saul? The Apostle Paul would later be the most persecuted of all God's children. I want you to look at this last picture here. I thought it's appropriate. ashamed of the Lord's prisoners. 2 Timothy 1:8. Therefore, do not be ashamed of testimony about our Lord, nor of me, his prisoner. Folks, this is Pastor Tim Stevens sent this message to his wife in his jail cell in Canada yesterday. What I'm going to ask you to do is I wanted to ask you to pray for Pastor Tim Stevens, pray for Canada, pray for all the Christians there. Pray that this persecution will stop. Put Pastor Tim on your prayer list at your church. When you see this persecution, whether it's in the United States or it's Canada or it's China, it's California, Virginia, Oregon, Michigan, I just want you to remember, it's not about you. It's not about you. It's all about him. Every single bit of it. Be in prayer for Pastor Tim and Canada. And that, my brothers and sisters in Christ, is how we go bold today. God bless you and go bold.